Ray, can you believe it?
No.
2022. It's incredible.
I know. And it's kind of the middle of the month.
I know.
Into the new year.
I know.
But this is our first one back with you guys.
It is. And we're excited to be here. We started thinking about all of the exciting things we had for this year. And now here we are. And we did our first 60-second Spark on Monday. We got podcasts starting again next week. We're live with you. We got Zoom starting next week too. Yep. Holy moly, lots of stuff. What do you guys got going out there? What are some things, or let me just ask this, maybe we should start out. Do you set New Year's resolutions? We'll ask that question first. So let us know.
Yeah.
Do you set New Year's resolutions? How about you?
Not anymore. Not anymore. But I'll tell you, there was a time where it just felt like you weren't part of the group if you didn't.
Right.
It was more about the tradition.
Right.
Like you felt you had to. And now I'm kind of beyond that. I do set and discuss things that you might consider that, but I don't call them a New Year's resolution. We'll get there, but not anymore.
I'm kind of the same way. And, for me, it wasn't necessarily the peer pressure of like setting resolutions. It was an internal pressure. It was like, oh, it's a new year, so I have to have new things that I want to do. And it became so overwhelming that it wasn't fun anymore. Right. And so, we'll speak to that a little bit more. But I'm curious from you all, do you set New Year's resolutions? And if you do, maybe let us know in the chat some of the resolutions that you've set in the past. Yeah. I thought it was interesting. We collected a list.
We did.
And this was through some of our research for today's session. And the number one New Year's resolution that people set.
This is really surprising, right?
I mean, the ads are everywhere right now, but exercise more.
Yes.
And that's intriguing to me in a lot of different ways. Because number one, it's so vague.
Right.
but number two, it's like what, why? Like, what's the purpose behind it? And I think that that's really where we want to head today. When we're talking about this idea of empowerment, does it feel empowering to say, I'm going to exercise more? Right. Oh, I mean, to each their own, I suppose. But what is it for you when you think about this idea of empowerment and how you want to start your year? What does that mean?
Oh, when I think about empowerment, I think about the ability to make my own choices, to feel like I'm in control of my life.
Right.
And I think that's a much greater dive into who I am and what I really want. And so I think you're right. When we look at some of the very common goals that we set for ourselves, I think they have to align with who we are and, quite honestly, what we want. I mean, what we want to achieve. And so defining this, when we say exercise more or lose weight or get organized, let's peel back the layers of that a little bit. What's at the core of that? Really, what's at the core of that? And at the least, what does that mean to you when you're saying, exercise more or lose weight? What define that? Let's peel that back a little bit.
And one of the other things that I think often works against us, and we talked a little bit about this before today's session. When I think of empowerment, I agree with you. It is that sense of control. It's that sense of I can truly take my life by the horns and I'm going to accomplish the things that are the most important to me. But one of the areas that get in the way a lot for me is the comparisons to everything else around me. I mean, we are inundated with messages. Day in, day out. Social media, if you're on it, they're on there too. So it's like, how do you scoop through that stuff and just really start recognizing what is important to you, not what society says should be important to you? It's tough.
Yeah,
I think it is.
I think that's a great question. And comparison is a horrible thing.
Yes,
it really is. I mean, and if we're not comparing ourselves to somebody's, other Facebook account or Twitter or whatever, we're comparing ourselves to who we think we should be,
right?
Who we thought we were, And I really think, that is kind of, well, what is true? True is who you think you are. But I really think in this search to be authentically us, I think there's a truth, right? A truth. A truth is who you really are.
Right.
And I think that's part of that empowerment.
Oh, yeah.
Is figuring out who you really are. And then not being apologetic for that, because nobody has traveled your journey. Nobody has been through your experiences. Nobody has seen things through your lenses.
Right.
Right. And so true is just who you think you are. Right. And truth is who you really are.
Right.
And I think that begins your true empowerment.
And it can be hard to wade through some of that, but it is so rewarding on the other side. And one of the things that sticks out is the story you told me about your transition into your field here at MTI, and that time you took, that space you gave to really identify the true you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. We all have those people in our lives, and that tell us things, right? And we may not like it. I think there's an Alanis Morissette song, it's a jagged pill. And sometimes it is a hard pill to swallow. But I think when I was figuring that out, and it wasn't too long ago, like I said, maybe 12, 13 years ago, when I was really trying to see who I wanted to be when I grew up, I did that. I just took a time off, and I granted I had the space to do that. And I went on a journey and said, who am I? Who am I? What aligns with what I already know and like about myself, what I can do that's natural, what do I want to spend my time doing, what do I not want to do? I was not working, and that was a choice. And what do people tell me that I'm good at? And so I've got friends out there that were brutally honest with me, but I trusted that.
Sure.
And I asked my kids, and of course they're always brutally honest, and I trust that. And then I did every free online assessment. I did the Myers-Briggs, and I did, what kind of dog would you be if you were a dog, and just trying to put those trends together and seeing, you are this and you like that. And then I'm like, yeah, I do. And I even went back to my old job performance evaluations and looked at the things that my previous employers had said that I was good at, and really took stock in that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of created my real profile as an employee and as a person in all of the different roles that I played. And I said, okay, if I were going to create the job description for myself, what would I be doing every single day? And what would I not be doing? And then I went on a job search. And I said, okay, I'm going to be looking for these things in a job description. And if the majority of the job description said, these are your daily tasks, what is it? I would swipe left.
Sure.
Right? That was before that. But I just kind of like, nope, that's not for me.
Right.
And I wanted that. I wanted something that aligned with what I did well. And I wanted to be doing that every single day. And I remember, and Dewey can probably tell you, I asked MTI just as many questions as they asked me. And it's been a marriage, literally, a very successful marriage for the last 13 years.
And I love you told the story too of how you slammed your hands down on
I did. Our former director, who I just love, he said, well, why do you think, MTI is the right place for you? And I did. I went, I was born for this job. And I mean, it just overcame me, just the feeling. And so, I'm sure they were all like, oh my gosh,
Right.
but I
But
was.
talk about empowering.
Oh my gosh,
Like you
yeah.
did that because you had gone through kind of that self awareness journey and spent the time
Yeah,
really devoted and figure out who you were
yeah,
and what you wanted.
yeah.
And I love that you say this idea of being so authentically you, that you're unapologetically you.
Oh yeah.
And it takes some time to get to that space for a lot of people. But man,
I know.
talk
I love
about the
it.
opportunity when you do. That's
I love
great.
it. I love my
I love
job.
that story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love my job.
Yeah. We love having Ray too.
Oh.
And so
Some days.
all days, all days. But I want to turn to our viewers out here. It looks
Yeah.
like we are doing a
Hi,
we have
Mike.
oh yes, Mike.
Yay.
Not usually doesn't he doesn't usually set resolutions. It sounds like his would be more health geared if he does. And then Julaine says that she's not doing them anymore either.
All
So
right.
I'm wondering. I wonder if there's data out there on this, like trending. Are they trending away a little bit more?
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned through this whole journey is we often consider that because it's a new year, because we need that
Right.
fresh start, that's like the only time to really set some of these commitments or these things that you really want to focus on for the year. And I found that to be overwhelming too. So I think one of the things that I want to encourage everyone out there to consider is to do you. And maybe the
Yes.
new year isn't like the place to start. Okay, I want to start all this. Our new year started off crazy. And so for me to sit down and say, well, these are all the goals, it's not the right season right now for me. That doesn't mean that in a couple months it won't be.
Right.
But I think that we set ourselves up a lot with the pressure of this idea of a new year, new commitments. And that can be depowering, not necessarily empowering.
Organizationally, a lot of organizations, they have fiscal years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or their strategic planning, might start in July 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when goals reset,
Right.
And finances reset. Yet we've been working on something at a different time personally. So, those are not in sync. And I think January 1, even though it does reset a calendar, might not necessarily be the right time, professionally. So
Right.
we can start whenever we want.
Right.
Yesterday ended last night. So today's a new day.
Right.
And so if, for those of you that are saying, I don't set New Year's resolutions anymore, is that called something else for you?
Right. Great question.
I really think about, is there a theme? That's kind of what we do now. We talk about what's a theme going to be for us this year. What about you? You said not resolution, but is there something that kind of strikes you when you're thinking about the year for you? What lays ahead?
Yeah. So for us, we have been a lot of all over the place in my home life, I'll say, because we have a baby, and that's been a transition in itself. I say baby, he's a toddler now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so we spent a lot of you also, let me add the layer of the last 2 years. We had a baby during the pandemic.
Yes.
And so that has added an extra amount of worry and anxiety. And so one of the things that's kind of our theme in our household for this year is less worry. And I remember it kind of playing out. I told you this on Monday. I'm also a perfectionist. And so it's very hard for me to say when enough is enough with something. But I've decided in this whole theme of no worry for 2022. And of course, it's not going to be no worry, but less, we'll put it that way, less worry. I found little ways throughout the day to say, okay, remind myself. And I put it on a sticky note, and I was working on a project and it wasn't exactly how I wanted it yet, but I said, no, like it's good enough. And it's good enough. And now I can move on to something else. So it also helped increase my productivity a little bit that day, because I was able to say, I'm not going to keep stressing or worrying over this element of this project. And so we do themes too, and that's kind of the theme for 2022 for us, because we've been living for the last 2 years in a cycle of stress for everyone out there globally. So finding those little pieces and starting to kind of shift areas into focus for you, like plant your stake. For me, it was less worry for this year, and then find little ways that you can contribute to that kind of bigger goal. But for some people, and I think we've talked about this too, maybe you're better with the smaller goals. So when we talk about doing like, do you set yourself up for success? And so maybe you need to spend some time kind of reflecting on what is it that is most important to you, to your family, to your colleagues, that you're going to need to do for 2022, and start there. I love that you gave space to this. When you were looking for your career, and maybe not all of us will take that kind of space, but being able to really spend maybe an hour or two even sitting down and recognizing what is the most important thing for you, and what's going to be the biggest change for you, meaning what can have the most impact.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to my girl Kinda.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, she talked about maybe doing she said her weight and exercise goal was to learn Tai Chi. And wow, when you think of something that's going to impact like your entire life, that has and touches on many aspects. Expanding your mind, not just your body, but wow, what a centering and grounding experience. So bravo.
Yes.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us, Kinda. I appreciate that.
Beth,
Yep.
Beth on there, and she likes to set a new goal for the new year, track things starting January 1, writes down all the books that she reads for the entire calendar year. So it kind of gives you that measurement throughout the year of, okay, here was my goal and how did I do?
Yeah.
I think that's really insightful, because when I mentioned to you kind of that list we said at the beginning, right? Lose weight, exercise more. Those you're not giving yourself any space to say, like, okay, when have I done that? How will I know that I've achieved that? So writing those areas down, I think that's a great tactic, Beth. Great tactic. Goodness.
I know. And we know that Beth is a tracker. I think accountancy, I think those technical things, keeping track of stuff. And, that is important, because I think, we set ourselves towards these goals or even these themes, but how are we measuring that?
Right.
And so that is important to understand, I'm here now, but, where do I want to be? And so when I'm doing coaching and really trying to make that more part of my menu of offerings at Missouri Training Institute. And so I ask my clients that, I want to do this. And so that's my thing is, well, what does that look like for you? How will that show up for you? And I want to know that because I want to know, what does that mean? I don't necessarily think that the goal is what they're trying to achieve. In fact, I want to do this experiment with you. And so if you've got something you can jot down, or if you feel brave and you want to put this in the chat, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. First thing is, I want you to identify a goal. So just take a moment and think about something. Maybe you are working on something that you identified at the turn of the new year, and whatever that goal is. All right. So identify a goal. And then the next thing I want you to do is, how will you feel? How will you feel when you achieve that goal? So really try to think about that, like in a year, right? December 31st. How will you feel when you've achieved that goal? And really think about that feeling and write it down, right? Write it down. Because my challenge to you is this. I think it's the real goal, is the feeling.
It's a great point, Ray. It's a great point. It really is. And, there's so much that's coming out when we talk about this emotional intelligence and the impact of emotions. And I think that you are spot on with that, because everything that we do, every action that we take is typically based off of an emotion that we've experienced related to that action. And so you get kind of that gratification, I guess, if you will, emotionally. And that's incredible. It's incredibly insightful. I like that idea. Very, very good. You surprised me with that.
Yeah,
I like it. I
right?
like it. I like it very much. And I believe in the power of visualizing, and part of that visualization process is the feeling. It's also seeing yourself in action and doing so. And, we've talked on our podcast episode about how that was a critical skill for me during a certain time of my life when I was training for my first MMA fight. And I had to visualize that experience. I had to actually step foot in the cage and walk around and see the movements, and I had to feel what it would feel like to have my hand raised. And so it's a very, very powerful tool. And I think that that's a great place to start. Great place to start.
Yeah, you figure out the why.
Yeah.
I mean, that's inside, right? Because it's not really, what you are that holds you back. I think it's what you think you're not. It's what you think you're not. And so really, why you're doing what you're doing. When I think and I hear that story about creating whatever graphic it was that you were trying to create, and then just continue working on it because you wanted to get it perfect. But I think, you wanted to achieve something, and you're an achiever.
I am.
And once you felt like, I have achieved, you were able to walk away. Yeah.
And I think it's important through this process that we grant ourselves a little bit of grace too, and recognizing maybe some of those shortfalls. And for me, I consider perfectionism now a little bit of a shortfall, because it does hold up some of that productivity sometimes, and it holds up the mental strain a lot of times too. And so letting like it's okay. It's okay that I'm feeling this way about this right now, and that it still doesn't feel perfect, but I can impact this situation and the rest of my day a lot more, and the feeling that I'll achieve by the end of the day then will be different than just having the feeling on this project. It will be grander, I guess, if you will. And so it is. I think that for the most part, you got to know you. And so I appreciate you saying kind of you took the time to figure out you, and we do Clifton Strengths here as well. That helps. You talked about some of the assessments that you had done, and it does help kind of give some clarity to maybe things that you are focused on, some things that maybe you didn't previously have focus on. So definitely useful tools. I also find it useful to ask people, as you had mentioned, what are some things, and I come to you and Dewey all the time about this, what are some things that you think I do well, that maybe I'm not seeing, or what else can I be doing, or and you all have empowered me in some areas that I didn't think I was that grand in. I do that with my husband. Hey, how am I doing? What do you think I could be doing differently? What are you seeing? And so it's important to have a support system set up as you are setting yourself up to kind of empower your 2022. You've got to have the right people around you too.
Yeah. Which means you've sometimes have to cull those that aren't necessarily helping you.
And that can get hard also. Get tricky. Get tricky. So
setting boundaries.
Yeah,
for sure.
I got to ask, one of the things that I think is trending nowadays is this whole meal prep thing. Do you do meal preps, Ray?
No, but I love the idea.
Do you? Yeah. Right.
I do love it. And I agree with it. And it would make life very easy. I'm one person. And so it's really hard. I think about, when I do think about my meals, I do know that once I cook something, I like to live off of it for 3 or 4 days, because I love leftovers. But I don't eat a lot of food as one person. And it's hard to buy groceries, especially fresh, produce that I can eat up before it spoils. So the idea is grand. But it's hard. And I know that's a cop out, but
no, it's not. And that's, I think that that's the thing, is that sometimes we feel guilty almost.
yeah.
It's like, well, I should be able to do it. And I think of this, like, I watch all the videos now, where the perfect parent is packing this beautiful lunch with, all these little cut vegetables. And I'm looking at my son's lunch and I'm like, okay, there's a bag of veggie straws and there's
I know me well enough to know, like, hey, a bowl of cereal or, a little egg burrito, this girl's good to go.
And isn't it interesting, just again, going back to, we talked about that at the beginning of this, that comparison, and how it can really start impeding our ability to even keep trying, and for me, I'd start seeing those things and I would hold off and I'm like, well, I'm never going to achieve it that way, so I might as well not do it. And so going back to that, like, good enough, like, what's good enough? I bought organic chicken, that's like with, in the fancy section. And I was like, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, again, I mean, like you said, it's knowing you.
It is.
And right now, I know me. I know I won't do it. It doesn't even come to the top of my radar.
Yeah.
And I've always said this, you don't change when you see the light. You change when you feel the heat. And right now, my blood levels are normal. All of those things are functioning. I haven't had any warning signs. So there's other things for me to spend my bandwidth on.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
And so when we think about balance, when we think about, where we are and all of the different ways that we're stretched, I mean, if it's financial or spiritual or relational or professional, where do we need that balance? And maybe there are other areas that need more energy. And so for me right now, I'm doing okay in that area, and especially as one person. And I'm lucky enough to have family that will feed me, and
colleagues
helpful that bring in leftovers, just things like that. We have, but so it's balance. It's balance.
Well, and I think it's interesting. The reason I bring it up too is because it's a trend right now, and I think that we'll see if this continues. I hope it does. I think it's important to stay healthy. But what if we actually started trending in this idea of kind of mental prep? Like for the week or for the day, even. Maybe you don't have to do the whole week, but mental prep. And so spending your time that week kind of sitting down and looking, maybe it's 20 minutes on a Sunday and saying, okay, what do I have this week that could, for me, like I told you, my theme is less worry, that could really kind of spiral me in a direction I don't want to go. Maybe it is in this area, as you mentioned about the dimensions there. Maybe it is in the area of my relationships with others right now, because I know a conversation with that person is going to go south. How do I mentally prep myself for that interaction? How do I put boundaries up where I'm not in that situation to begin with? How do I prep the food, for my son every night that'll set me up for success, so I'm not stressing and racing out the door every day? There's this mental prep element that I think we take for granted often. Recognizing the emotion, going back to the emotions idea, that situation could create, and then being able to say, okay, how am I going to processing it ahead of time almost, so that you are, when you're there and in that space, you're more in control. Like, you've already done it. You've prepared yourself for that situation. And I think it's an incredibly powerful tool. That's, I guess, another thing I've taken into 2022 is not meal prep. Not good at that, I've decided, but mental prep. Mental prep.
Yeah. So. And that ties back to your idea of visualization. Just kind of like, okay, I know I've got this meeting. Could be a little touchy. However, when in doubt, ask a question. That's always become my good go-to. And of course, in coaching, that's exactly, everybody's an expert on themselves. They might not think they are, but they are. Nobody knows. You don't know anybody better than they know themselves. And I truly believe that all the answers lie within the person.
And I think that a great coach right here, would certainly help you bring that to surface. And that's one thing I've mentioned. I actually said this yesterday when I was talking to one of our clients, when I talked about just the mentoring and the coaching in a lot of ways that you and Dewey have helped me in my career here at MTI, and bringing some of those things to surface that I think I just knew were in there, but I couldn't quite get to the answers. You've never given me an answer. You've never said, no, I think you should do this. You've always just kind of used that questioning process to bring me to it. And it's been a great experience. Yeah. And so I encourage anyone out there, if you're looking at some opportunities for a great coach, reach out to this lady here. So
honestly, for leaders, for anybody, the quickest way not to get buy-in is to tell somebody what to do.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true.
If I don't want you on board, I'm going to tell you what to do. And, But if they come to it on their own through empowering questions, then that at least gives you an opportunity to get that buy-in a lot quicker.
We always want to have that sense of control. I think that's human nature. Sense of control over our own lives, and sense of control over our own minds and what we do on a day-to-day basis. And, one of the other things that I consider a lot when we talk about control, and when I talked about my theme of less worry, there's a lot of things that are out of my control. And, we talk about circle of influence, right. Circle of concern and influence. Those things that you can't control, maybe you can influence, you can't influence, you let them go.
Yep.
You let them go. And I think when we sit and we recognize one of two of the main areas that we have a lot of control over is our attitude and our effort. So to determine how much effort you want to put into something, you got to determine how important it is to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of goes all the way back to this. What are you going to plant your stake into for 2022? What is the most important thing that then you can just blossom off of throughout the whole year? It doesn't have to be a bunch of things. I think that we often get misguided in that. I think we get overwhelmed by that. It's like, I can't do one more meeting, on Zoom. But what is the one big thing that would have the biggest impact for you in your life? Not for somebody else.
Right.
Because that can also kind of derail you. But you're looking to empower yourself in 2022 so that when you're good, you're better for other people too.
Yeah. You control you.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts lead to behaviors, right? And so every emotion is valid. Not every behavior that's tied to that emotion necessarily is, but and at varying degrees. So I remember saying to you a couple of years ago, and might not necessarily be the appropriate metaphor today, but are you willing to die on that hill?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes not everything quite is as important as something else.
Right.
So really kind of getting perspective on things. This hill might be really, really big, and this hill is not quite so big, but are you making it that big?
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of measures, my level of effort, and am I making it bigger than it needs to be? And then really seeing, oh, okay, well, that maybe isn't quite so big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember one specific conversation. You're like, oh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that aha moment.
Yeah,
we get with good coaches.
I love those too, because you can just see that light bulb go ping.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, my favorite line is, "That's a really good question." I love it.
Well, what is it for you, Ray? What is you mentioned that wait a second, hold on.
No.
Oh.
No.
There's one really big commitment you're going to make in 2022.
Yeah. I'm just going to be the best me I can possibly be.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
And what else, Ray?
And it's going to take a lot of work. I'm old. I'm stuck in my ways. So yeah, it's going to take a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a lot of people, but I have surrounded myself with great people. So I'm very lucky. Very lucky.
May I share the other commitment?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I know.
Lots of great things happening here at MTI.
Yes.
And so lots of exciting things. But what is it for you? And I'm seeing
Yeah.
uh,
We've got some good
we have good
ones.
comments. Yes, yeah. Let's see. Cooking enough more than one meal is also meal prep. That's right. Thanks,
Yes.
Teresa, we're addressing the goals for 2022 and the rest of her life, right? Consume vegetables and fruits daily. Past 8 years. This month I am making, I got to see what it says here. Hold on, see more. Making a better choice, better blood work results. So a lot of health goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's interesting with that is we're seeing, like it's not as important to just say, hey, I'm going to lose weight, but it's like, hey, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
So we're here for the longevity of, and for me, it's my 1-year-old son right now.
Yeah.
So what is the grander picture and emotion that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah.
And
I, start thinking in the positive too. Not just saying I'm gonna, work out, but saying I am a healthy person.
Mm-hmm.
And making those little decisions as
Yeah.
they come. Instead of circling the parking lot waiting for somebody to pull out from the first 3 slots, park far away.
Yeah.
Walk in. Instead of taking the elevator to the second floor, walk to the second floor on the stairs. I mean, do what you can do when you can do it. It's those little things.
That's right.
Because I am a healthy person. I am a great leader. I am a good friend. I am a, superstar employee. I am a good colleague. I am a great presenter. Put yourself as that. And then I think those are great ways to live up to your expectations because you control you. And so thoughts become actions. And that to me is empowering.
It is. And it's also, I think when we think about I'm going to transition a little bit and talk about the habits, when we talk about creating some of those new things that you're going to start doing, research would say you do 30 days of it, and you've created a new habit. And so, just understanding that, okay, if I can get through today, if I can get through, okay, tomorrow, okay, if I can get through, and then you finally hit that 30th day and you're like, okay, it's not as difficult anymore. And I also like kind of giving myself some grace in that, okay, maybe I've set this and we're going to go with fitness goals because it looks like there's a lot of folks on our call that have some fitness goals. But if you want to really empower yourself and say, okay, I know that I want to get up and go to the gym. Well, don't set yourself up to say, I'm going to go to the gym every single day at 5 a.m. Chances are there's going to be one day you're going to want to sleep in. But start small. So maybe the first day is you actually set the alarm clock for 5 a.m. Maybe the second day is, okay, you put your clothes on, your workout clothes on. Maybe the next day is you actually walk into the gym. Maybe you don't do anything, but you actually got there. And so give yourself grace in breaking some of those maybe bigger things up into smaller pieces that will give you those immediate wins, the immediate gratification, and really the momentum to keep moving forward. So I also like to, if there's like things, I kind of give myself I don't want to say a cop out, but if I don't make it to the gym at 5 a.m., then I'm going to spend 30 minutes on the elliptical at my house tonight. You know what I mean? Like something that's like okay, if then, so that it doesn't feel completely paralyzing if you don't do it. So
great strategies.
Yes. So what is it for you? All right. Let us know. We're loving the comments we're seeing in there. But what's some things maybe you've taken away from this chat? What are some techniques or tools that have worked for you? We would love to hear more. We're also going to encourage you, if you have questions or comments after we close out today, email us, mti@missouri.edu. Ray, do you want to talk a little bit about the coach, like how to connect with you if anyone is interested in coaching?
Absolutely. Of course, my contact information is on our website. And so you can just scroll down, find my picture, and shoot me an email. I'm also out there on LinkedIn. And so you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. You can find me on a bunch of places. And she's got our contact information there, so you can scan the QR code. I'd love to just have a consultative conversation with you if you're thinking that coaching might be up your alley. And absolutely reach out.
And if it's something that you're a leader and you're interested in trying to renew your skills, maybe in the coaching area, and you just want to skill up, reminder, we got
Yes.
Soup series coming up,
Yes.
supervisory certificate series. It is going to be, we're still thinking in a hybrid maybe approach here. And so all of day 4 is about coaching, setting expectations in coaching. So 4-day series, February 3rd, 4th, 7th, and 8th. I'll be teaching that one. Super excited.
Yeah.
Coaching is a big element of being a good supervisor. So by all means, we encourage you to scan the QR code if you're interested in getting registered for that. Ray, do you want to?
I'm glad to be back.
I am too.
I am too.
And this is Facebook Live. We will have another one in 2 weeks.
Yep.
We also have our first 20-minute Zoom session next week. You can register on our website.
Yep. And you know what? Go be great.